What is the connection between the strength of your network, the network of people that you know, and your ability to grow the sales of your organization? And what is your responsibility as the president or CEO of your construction company to cultivate that network, share it with other people in your organization, and take responsibility for the sales success of your company? These are some of the questions that I discuss with my guest today on Construction Genius, and that is Austin Edwards. He is the president of Emerald Site Services. Emerald Site Services is a company out of the Sacramento area that provides complete solutions for erosion and sediment control, as well as stormwater consulting and construction services. Much of the work they do is in the residential construction area. Austin has deep experience building a business. He is a tremendous networker. He has deep insights into what it takes to be successful in sales. And in our conversation today, you're going to walk away with a number of practical insights that you, as the leader of your construction company, and those who report to you can take in order to be more effective at building your network and growing your sales. And sales, by the way, with the right clients in the right locations with the right jobs. So, as I always say, enjoy my conversation with Austin today. We have a killer restaurant recommendation at the end of the interview, and I know you'll get tremendous value from listening to the show. Feel free to share it with other people in your network who would benefit from the insights that you get from this interview. And as always, give us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts so that Construction Genius can get blown up on the internet and more people can benefit from interviews like this. I appreciate you listening and watching today. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Austin, welcome to Construction Genius.
Thanks for having me.
What do you consider to be the main responsibility for the president or the CEO or the owner of a construction company in terms of sales and business development?
Construction president has a million different jobs, but in terms of sales, I'd say it's our job to, first of all, cultivate the direction you wish to pursue sales and then lead your team into that avenue. I mean, in my world, we could pursue commercial, private, municipal. There's a whole bunch of roads we could take. So I have to at least get my sales group and say, this is where we're going to go. For Emerald, we're heavily in the private sector, home builders, residential builders, developers, land developers. So my job is to say, this is where we're going to be, and this is where we're going to go cultivate that network and make that our direction. It's also my job to share my network with my team. And I've been building that network for over 15 years. And I make sure that that's not a coveted thing. And I give access to my contacts and I introduce my team and make sure that they're available to them.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. A couple of things I heard first is that it's your job to set the direction in terms of the niche that you're pursuing. Did I hear that correctly?
Absolutely, yeah.
Why do you think that's particularly important for it to come from you in terms of the business development activity of your team?
Because a lot of times there's singular opportunities or one-off type opportunities you can go after in other markets that seem very attractive. I mean, when I was a younger man, they were taking down the Bay Bridge for the new one. And boy, that seemed like a really fun project to go after in the public works sector. But it was way outside our abilities. And it was way outside of our scope. And it was nothing that we could have done. So my team was really active in going after it. And I knew the project manager working on that project, and he called me to come down to bid it. And my network would have been able to get us an opportunity after it, but it was not something that we were aptly suited for. So being the owner of the company, I had to put the brakes on it. And I had to say, look, this is an opportunity for us to do something different, but not wise for our business. It would have grown us very broke. So I need to put us in the right sphere and sometimes set that tone for our team.
Did you say there it would have grown us very broke?
Yes, I use that adage a lot. You can grow broke very quickly, right? Everybody does, lots of people grow broke in the downturn, but most of them go broke on the up. They take jobs that are too big and too wrong. And that's something I don't want to do ever.
Yeah. So there's so much packed in there. I think the first thing that I know a lot of business development people struggle with is they just go after shiny objects. And to have that disciplined approach to the right niche is absolutely essential. And then it would seem like because like you said with the Bay Bridge here in the Bay, in Northern California, that's a big project. It's a high profile project. It's super tempting. How long did it take you to be able to go through that process of saying, no, that's not for us?
To the pre-con, I'll be honest, I I went down, it was very shiny, it was very fun. And I realized when the room I was sitting in was full of very established and powerful businesses, and I was the smallest guy there still making a truck payment, that I was not aptly suited. So I knew it wasn't for me. My friend was working for the GC that had taken on the project, and he was like, "Oh, you could build your business overnight. You get some cheap debt, and you could go after this and get way bigger. You'll be just like," I can insert the name of the GC that had it, but won't. And I said, "No, it isn't for me. As badly as I want to, it just isn't for me." So it probably was the best decision I ever made, even though my ego was severely tarnished when I drove back over the bridge to go home. I learned a lot from saying no.
How long did that ego hit last?
I was way more arrogant as a younger guy. I think it lasted for quite a while.
Oh, interesting. But it's interesting how, as you look back on that and the fact that you were willing to check your ego, it's not something that you regret.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, as you were talking there, you mentioned this idea of sharing your network with your people. I want to get back to that, but then I want to begin by asking you, in your mind, what is networking?
So networking is misconstrued a lot of times. Networking is to lots of people, it's amassing 1,000 followers on LinkedIn and going to, I don't know, the events. You get blasted over your email for these things to downtown and sharing cocktails with people you don't know that are the wrong fit for you. My idea has been always cultivating relationships that you can call upon that would make a call for you, or cultivating like-minded people, even outside of your sphere, that you could use for anything you need that may not even be for $1. I've helped people find jobs. I've helped people get new relationships for business and for money. But most of the time, it's just been cultivating this broad reaching, Sacramento-based and Northern California-based phone list of people that I can rely upon for anything, from business advice to vendors to subcontractors to clients, because people move. I mean, people go from private sector to public sector to, I don't know, purchasing at Caltrans. It's just amazing how fast they move. And Sacramento being a 15-minute town, you can drive across one side to the other in 15 minutes, and word spreads faster than that.
Yep.
You can build a pretty powerful network that way. And it seemed to have happened organically just by doing that.
That's really interesting. Now, you said it took you 15 years to establish it. As you've built your business, how have you balanced that sort of long-term perspective of building the relationships and building the network, where you're not necessarily sell in your interactions, with the need to grow your business today, so to speak?
Let me correct you a little. I've been doing this 15 years on my own. So I think that I had a pretty powerful thing going from where I left employment. I had a pretty deep pool. I was blessed to have a really good job that I left that was very heavy into where I was going. So I had a pretty deep pool of people that I cultivated. And over the next 15 years, being a president of a company helps because, well, when you're first starting, nobody answers your call, but I was a product of the recession. Mm-hmm. So they wanted I started a business when the recession first hit. So I was a little bit blessed in the fact that everybody was trying to catch the knife of the value. So they were looking for the cheapest option. And I was a cheap beginning, I'll do anything kind of guy option. Yep. So they were answering my call. And then I was lucky enough that when the economy had come back through, that I was still standing and providing good service. And they were taking my call because I was the president of a successful company. So having the title CEO president very much helps for people answering your phone call when you've been reliable. So that's the 15 years. So then let me answer your question. Your question was going from sell to network. The difference between networking and selling is profoundly different. Selling is you're going into, car dealer and he's trying to get you to not leave before you close a deal.
Right.
And there are opportunities for that. You get an opportunity to walk into PG&E's office. You have 15 minutes to pitch your wares and leave. And there's a line of people out the door.
Right.
That's selling. And they know it's selling. Networking is not selling. Networking is essentially selling yourself over the long term, or creating a feeling of goodwill or opportunity, or putting top of mind value on yourself that you're going to get back later. It's investing. I would tell people that if you're trying to sell at a networking opportunity, then you're already way behind and you're going to never get value out of it.
That's really good there. So it's definitely a different mindset between networking and selling. And yet the networking mindset then gives you sales opportunities.
You have to have a genuine spirit of, I am not going to get anything out of this, if you want to be a truly good networking person. I go into it truly wanting to understand someone's need, and then I try to use my cultivated network to help them. So most of the time I'm listening to you. So if you came to me and you and I met years ago, and I expected nothing from you and you expected nothing from me, and we've created a friendship over this. Yep. I would say that you could call me tomorrow and say, Austin, I would love an introduction to X. And if I had that, I would give that to you.
Interesting.
And you would do that for me, I would hope. And that's exactly how this works. And I would not hold that from you. And I would not think that would be anything I would need to do. People call me, I told you this earlier. People call me all the time and say, hey, I'm dissatisfied with where I've been. Do you know anybody looking for this position? And if I do, I connect that to those dots. I'm hoping that down the line, when they have that nice job that I've been calling for, I can call them back up and say, hey, Joe, remember, I don't even call upon the favor. I just say, hey, I'm looking to do that job. And I'm hoping that goodwill pays back a dividend. If it doesn't, I don't hold it against them, but I'm hoping it does.
It's interesting, because one of the mantras that I've always kept in mind in terms of being successful in selling is that people purchase from people that they know, trust, and like.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It sounds like that the networking mindset is all designed to build those relationships of know, trust, like.
100%.
So how do you do networking? Tell me about, how do you go about it? I'm getting an idea of the mindset where you're not there to sell something right there today, but where do you choose to go to network? Because you kind of alluded to it earlier. A lot of people waste time in their networking by being in the wrong place with the wrong people.
Well, I like golf, so I do go golfing events, but golfing is a poor way to do it because you're stuck with 3 people in your group. And you don't get a lot of time with the event. I'm not trying to knock the charity events. Charity is a wonderful thing, and you need to participate in that if you're successful as a contractor. Or anything. Please insert your money into the economy. But those are tough because, like I just said, you don't get a lot of time until it's before. You get that little cocktail hour before, and at the end, when people have had a lot of cocktails, it's tough to get much time. The meet and greet events they get you to. Believe me, I've done all of these, so don't say that they're bad. They're really good for people starting out that need some face time. The ones where they say meet the builder or meet the purchaser or meet the thing, realize that the person with all of the purchasing power typically isn't in that event. They usually have someone there who answers to. It's not bad to put your card in the bucket, but you're going to be one of 1,000 cards that they've dealt with. So unless you are a whiz-bang personality that they are going to remember as a standout, talking Tony Robbins level bad boy, you're not going to be remembered in that thing. You're going to be they were doing their duty to get their charitable donation to the organization as well. It's going to be tough. I've been pitched in those. They're very hard to remember everybody. Go to something that you can get the most time with somebody. So if you have an ability to call up, just say you're going to be a vendor for me. If you have the ability to get my time for 3-4 hours isolated, that's the best thing you can do because you have me as a captive audience. So if I'm an avid fisherman or I'm an avid golfer or I like shooting my shotguns, all things you listen to this podcast, I'm very available for all 3 of those things.
You're right.
You can get me to go. And you got me for 4 hours, and you just, and don't just get me in the boat and start whacking me about your price sheet. You really want to understand is, there's a whole day of you getting to talk about what your company offers. And me getting to know who you are. And that's a real value. I can get a division president to go fishing for a day. That's incredible.
Yep. Yep. And do you, as the president of your company, do you see that as your responsibility to participate in those networking events?
It has more, not as an egotistical thing. It has more horsepower and weight a lot of times if I go.
Right. Because it's interesting because I think a lot of company C-level folks, they pull back from that networking, from that sales effort when they get into those roles, or when they establish their company, they think, I'll just hire other people to do that. But like you said, there's a certain power to you as the leader of your company being involved in those efforts.
It's a family business. It's not a huge business. I'm
Right.
not a Fortune 500 company. I'm still the face and name of our business, and my cell phone is still available to anybody to call. So they still require me to be that.
So as you're involved in different events, just break down for me as your, let's say you go to an event and you see someone who you really want to develop a relationship with, who eventually you want to sell your services to. What is your mindset as you begin that conversation?
So typically, I know how long it takes from first touch to when my expectation to get anything out of somebody is typically 18 months. I call it landing in the boat. It takes a big fish, a big land is about 18 months. And so just set your expectations that if you're going to think you're going to walk up and go pull a contract into the boat on the first day, you must be a hypnotist. Because that only happened for me back in the recession when things were just devastatingly bad and any nickel saved was good. I could walk in and say, I'm Austin, I want your work. And they'd say, sure. But now it's negotiate and pricing and wrenching a contract loose. And it's just a whole different game you're in and you're playing against. You have long relationships. You have people like me who've had long relationships against you. You have the face of my business and construction has changed immensely. It's no longer just a competitive bid. It's size of company, material allocation, labor. There's just so much more to it. And so if you're a starting construction company, you're up against just a monster of an industry, right? So I would say that new person that I want to go against, I have to either go to another friend in the business who's working for them and ask for an introduction. And that's probably the best thing I can do. And I've been blessed with some really key points in my life where I've met some real power hitter networkers that have very deep pools. And so I can usually call upon 3 or 4 of them that are well respected in the business and say, hey, can I have an introduction to this guy and get a breakfast, lunch, dinner, drink, event, something. And that has opened doors for me that would never have been open before. That's pretty good. Or I have to just suck it up and I have to go hit the cold one. And the cold one's tough. And that takes, even for me, who's been doing this a long time, I don't care who you are, that best put butterflies in your stomach that you're going to get rejected. It tests your fortitude. You've been doing this too for a long time. I know you have to do them. If you are the best cold caller on the face of the planet, it's still going to make you tingle a little that you're going to get told no, and you're going to have to get past it.
Yep. It's I really like this idea of you understanding your sales cycle, and that from first touch with a decision maker to getting a contract is an 18-month time frame.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important takeaway for the senior leaders of an organization to understand that and be able to have that mindset themselves, but then also to communicate it to other people in their organization.
And have realistic expectations. I mean, if your second tier people are not making these closings, you have to understand that they're still up against the same things you are. If you're the C-level operator in your company, it takes you 18 months. It may take them 2 years. Mm-hmm. It may take them worse, even longer. It just is what it is.
Yep. And now this idea of asking for an introduction, when you're considering that approach, how do you execute that approach in terms of identifying the person who you want to be introduced to and who you should ask for the introduction?
So my industry is pretty tightly knit.
Right.
And I'm lucky enough to be pretty saturated in it, in the home building. And I know who I don't have, and I typically know who does have access to. And I usually call around, there's some major players in the trades right now that do most everybody's work. And I can call and say, hey, do you work for, a KB Home, right? Or do you work for Lennar? Right.
Yep.
And they say, oh, no, I don't do them anymore. Or, oh, I lost their contract. Or, oh, yeah, I do them. I have a great relationship with the purchasing guy. I say, oh, well, that's not high enough on the food chain for me. I need someone a little bit more. And so I work my way through. Right. And I usually, through my depth of pool, sooner or later, I get to someone who says, oh, I worked there for 20 years and I have a great connection with the division president. I say, perfect. Well, could you give me an intro? They say, oh, absolutely. I'd love to connect you. And next thing you know, I'm in a golf cart or I'm, at a lunch, and I at least got like I told you, the hour to 4 hours or even 30 minutes to say, hey, I'm a good guy and, I'd love to do it. And next time you have an opportunity, think of me. And it works.
That's excellent. So let's just build this here. First, we have the time frame expectation for C-level, perhaps whatever it might be. In your case, it's 18 months. For someone lower down in the organization, it could be longer. Second point, and again, let's just get really into detail here. It is the right contact person.
Yeah, don't waste your time going to a superintendent when he can't make the decision,
Yep, that's exactly right. Now, what I'd like to ask also is, let's say you have a long-term goal to establish a relationship with a particular client. There is an incumbent competitor that they're very much in relationship with. What is your approach in that situation in terms of building the relationship and getting opportunities?
I keep my name in the game. I have people that are brothers, cousins, friends, and have been forever, soccer coaches of these people that you are never going to displace. And you have to respect that relationship. One, because I want them to understand that I have good relationships too, and they should respect mine. And I'm okay with that. But I want to be there and I want to be top of mind if and when the opportunity arises for me to step up. Yep. And I don't want them just to go to Google and type in erosion control to get somebody to replace their friend when their friend retires. And yes. I want to be the opportunity to be the valued replacement. Say, hey, finally Joe quit and he was my best friend, and boy, I'm sure heartbroken over that. But Austin's a heck of a good guy, and he's been around and he's been kind of doggedly tracking me for the last 5 years. Time for us to give him a shot.
Yep. I think it's interesting because a lot of times in sales, salespeople, and even, at our level in an organization, we're thinking, oh no, I'm harassing them, I'm bugging them, they'll never change. And that's the wrong mindset in my experience.
Mine too. You think you're pestering them. You're pestering them if you're blowing their phone up every week saying, give me a bid, give me a bid, give me a bid. Why didn't you give me that job? Now, the worst thing that could ever happen is they go, oh man, the job kicks off. They go, oh man, I forgot to call you. Why didn't you call me? Or I didn't know you did that, or anything like that would be just a heartbreaking move for me.
Yeah, that persistence. I know for me, at least in sales, what you said about that top of mind, that showing up, that consistency, that persistence, that will override any kind of, presentation brilliance that you may or may not have. Many times, just that showing up and that willingness to not give up.
Absolutely.
So as you're doing that, this networking mindset, I know you said a couple of things here where you have the folks that you can rely upon to make a phone call for you, but then you're also cultivating people outside of the direct sphere of your business. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I said it once before. Sacramento is a 15-minute town, and this is I've created my career in Sacramento, and what happens is like your fuel guy or your vendor. Vendors are a powerful network that you don't ever think about, but lots of us buy supplies from Whitecap, and then framers, concrete guys, stucco guys. They all buy stuff from the same people, and their rep may happen to be mine or very connected to yours. And that guy hears about jobs months, and their job is commission-based sales. They hear about jobs so far in advance that it's not even funny because they want to sell the hangers and the rebar to that job. And they call me on the phone all the time and say, hey, did you know about this job going with Tyker? Because I'm selling them insert product. I don't know. And they know everybody in those places, and they take them to lunch and cultivate them. So your network just got exponentially larger based on their network. And the factor of 1 + 1 = 3 because of them is something that you should definitely be doing. And I didn't think about that when I first got going. I thought of them as a tool to be used to get product. And when I first realized that they were actually a friend of mine in the business, it became a way bigger network for me. And I got opportunities and doors open that were not available to me when I first started.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So again, it's really interesting how you've picked a particular niche. You understand the time frame of from contact to sale or opportunity. You've also picked a particular geography, and it's particularly in construction. Construction is geographic, right? It's a physical thing, and so understanding that is important. I'd like to ask you, what is your view on selling to people who you've never done business with? I'd like you to speak to selling to the people that you are currently doing business with. What's your view on the continual cultivation of those relationships and how that type of networking makes selling to your current clients easier?
So selling to my not new clients. So nothing's more fun than a new client, right? So selling a new one is like a big win and you feel like you just conquered the world, and that's great. But it's your responsibility to maintain your current client base or you won't have a business. And if you forget about the ones that brought you, you will be gone. And I value my stalwarts and my anchors more than I do my new clients, actually more, because I've had the same clients since I started and opened the doors. And I value them a ton. So it's your responsibility to make sure they're taken care of, they're happy, that they have access to you personally as the owner, because they want to remember that, I was just a kid with a truck payment in my garage when they met me, and that's how they remember me. I can't big time them or forget about them.
So let me ask you that specifically then. How do you balance the need to grow your business and delegate tasks down the network, down the levels of your business so that other folks are business developing, with that need for, hey, I'm still here and you have a relationship with me? How do you do that sort of dance there?
You give responsibilities to your down team, right? You start doing that and they see that your company's too large for Austin to do it all, right? That is a responsibility of a construction growth based company. You have to stop siloing your business, and you will never grow if you are the one doing everything. And everybody knows that. Their companies are built the same way. They're traded on the stock exchange, right?
Right.
So they will get that. You still have to be available for them to pick up the phone and call you, though. I mean, some of my companies are, very, very successful, but they still want to be able to get me on the phone and say, hey, I just need to talk to you about something. And if you ever didn't pick up the phone at 7 p.m. or 5 a.m. for them, they would be upset about it.
Yeah.
Now, I will say most of the answers to that call are, you need to go talk to Art, or you need to talk to so-and-so, because I'm not going to be the one out there with the tractor fixing that for you. And they understand that completely, but sometimes it's really nice to go pick up and talk to the person at the top. Yep. And so my cell phone's completely available. It's on my website. It's available on the door. It's going to be till the day I leave here, because I want to make sure the ones that brought me know they can get me.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, I know that lots of companies do events for clients and potential clients. In your experience, and those are very effective events for building relationships and cultivating sales opportunities, what's the difference between a good event like that and a bad event? What are some of the things that you have done with your business?
So we have lots of things. I mean, everybody likes a good party. Everybody likes an event. I try to make them a little more personal. I have a real tough time with a big blowout party where everybody acts like an idiot and you kind of take yourself down a notch, right? I think we built ourselves up on a little bit more professionalism. I don't like a big, huge 400 person non-intimate kind of event anymore. It used to be a lot of fun to have one at, a golf course or a banquet room, or invite them to a holiday deal. That's just not the way I operate anymore, because it loses the ability for me to connect with you or have my team connect with you in a way that we can remember it. It's just too large and a lot of drunk people that, again, people like cocktails, people like food, people like all that, but it just doesn't get the impact that you need to get anything valuable out of it.
Yep.
I prefer to find out what people like. I mean, we do a number of really high-end level fishing trips a year. People like that kind of stuff. They like being able to go on trips that they wouldn't normally take themselves on. I'm an avid hunter. People like hunting in the Sacramento Valley. I am a member of a couple real nice duck clubs, so I can take people to an experience they wouldn't normally get. That's kind of fun. And I ask people what they want to do. So, I mean, if you're into, I don't care what you're into kayaking, you're into boating, you're into whatever, I find a way to put groups together of like-minded people and we go do it.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I know a lot of people, you mentioned it earlier, just this idea of rejection and I've made hundreds of thousands probably of cold calls in my life. And you're right. You still get a little nervous, when you pick up the phone, even if you've been selling for over 30 years. Let me ask you, how do you overcome that sense of that nervousness or something like that when you're making a cold call or a new introduction or, a new connection?
I said it earlier, I got a pretty good ego, right? I think I tap into that in myself. I remember the successes that I've had. Yeah. And I tell myself, that you've won more than you've lost in your life and you're going to win again. Yep. And there's nothing that they can tell you haven't heard, right? I've heard everything. And typically I've never gotten a big blowout. Out of the thousands and thousands of calls that I've made, I don't think I've ever been told you're a no good, rotten SOB on the phone. Maybe once, and it was totally like they had the wrong guy or something. Yeah, right. I don't know. But most of the time it's a very polite, no, I'm happy with my brother who's doing the job for me, or, okay, well, you send me your price sheet and we'll talk, which is a blow off and whatever. It's just being blown off is not the end of the world. It's just, that's rejection in the politest of forms. I can take that. That's not awful. So even being insulted really wouldn't be that awful. It's just no. So excellent. I have to just get over it. Right?
No, that's good. That's good. And I think that's just the best advice for it, because people wonder, is there some magic to overcoming rejection? And the answer is there isn't. You just have to do what you don't want to do, and you'll find out that the worst they can say is no.
and find the coping mechanism that works for you, right? I tell my staff this all the time. If it's, you have to make the worst calls first, like that's my method. I make them all first, right? And I make the ones I know they're going to be good last. So I get up early in the morning, I have a cup of coffee. Construction guys all start early. So I make all the ones I don't know if they'll be good or not first, when I'm strong and energetic and ready to go. So people that don't know me, you realize why I'm calling. If you're listening to this, you realize why I'm calling you between 7 and 10 in the morning, because those are all the cold calls I'm making. That's and excellent. All the ones that know me know I'm going to call them right before lunch, because if it's a good call, I'm probably calling to take you to lunch. Yep. So I'm happy at the end because I got something out of it that I'm happy with. That's kind of my coping mechanism. People will find their own.
That's excellent. Now, I'd like to go back to a question from earlier in our discussion, and this is the idea of sharing your network with people in your organization. A lot of folks, they may struggle with that because this is my contact, this is my special relationship, and I take value in that, and I may be nervous in sharing it. How do you go about sharing your network with people in your organization?
People don't share networks for a couple reasons. They don't share it, one, because they're financially motivated not to, like on a commission-based business. If you're paid by the client, why would you share Frank's number because he's 2% of your gross book or something, right? Yep. They also don't share it because they're covetous and they have some ego-driven reason they don't. Mm-hmm. No one's taking my job at this company, so why would I care? It actually helps me to get more time with my kids if I give contacts to my guys. Right. So I'm okay with that. Presidents and CEOs should realize the more you're willing to share, the better off you are. The issue being that people get scared of at this level is they go, oh my goodness, my team could take that client and go to my competitor or something, right? The Richard Branson model is, train them up so they could quit, but make it so they don't. Right. Give them some wings here and help them get better. My relationships, if you stay touching them, the biggest mistake that boss of my last company ever made when I left is he never touched the clients he let me manage. There you go. So he was just hands off and he never, ever did anything with them. They didn't even know who he was, couldn't point him out in the lineup, didn't know anything about him. And so when they'd say, hey, I would love to talk to your owner, I'd call him and say, hey, come on down and meet this guy who wants to see you. And he'd say, no, I don't want to. You got it. And so he'd give me his money and his time and his effort for me to go build these relationships. And so when I left, I had this giant Rolodex of builders and friends in the industry from his effort, essentially, and he didn't have it. I'm not that worried about that technically because I spend a lot of time and effort still maintaining friendships with these people, and they are truly my friends. And if Joey leaves my employment, he still has to deal with the fact they're still my contact in my network, and I still have a good company that services them. That's excellent. That's the key right there is you give the network away, but you keep in touch with the network. It's excellent stuff. It's really good. So what if I just suck at networking, right? I don't want to go to those events.
The first thing I'm thinking about when I walk in the door is when do I get to leave? What sort of advice would you give to someone to get better at networking?
Well, there are different forms of networking, right? I would say that some people just are going to be bad at it. I mean, so my accounting team may be pretty bad at it because they're just good at getting bills out. Maybe that's not what they're going to be. Maybe people are just not set for it. You have to have a personality that's set to like people. Right. And you have to want to be around people. And you have to communicate efficiently, cleanly. I mean, I've sat in many an event and cringed at listening to what people say to each other and listening to them over explain what they do or poorly explain what they do or just too much detail. It's just kind of bad, right? I think if you know you're bad, I've had a couple of people work for me say, I don't like it. I don't want to go.
Right.
Team yourself up with someone who's good at it.
There you go.
Right. Latch on. Right. Like my wife is real shy. Well, not anymore. Was very shy. Right. Couldn't even open her mouth in a room, would just cling on to me for years. Now she barely even leaves. I'm parking the car and she's running for the door. Right. To get in there and go meet people. Right. And I think it's because I am loud and boisterous and I've met everybody and she's kind of latched onto that personality. And now she's gotten herself more confident in going in and meeting people, because if she doesn't know someone, she'll make me introduce her and then she'll become friends with them. It's the same way now in business. If you're not okay with it, latch on to me for a while and I'll help you get some confidence.
I like that.
Find somebody to help you.
That's excellent. I know for me, because I don't, some people derive energy from those social settings. And for some people, it drains their energy away. I know for me, when I go to a networking event, the thing that I found to be really helpful in building relationships with people is to be more interested in them than you are in yourself. Yeah. And just ask some really good questions and try your best to get to know them and talk about them more than you do yourself. And that really helps to build those relationships.
Well, nobody learned anything by talking, right?
So as we're wrapping up here, what are 3 action items the president or the CEO of a company should be taking away from our discussion here, Austin, in terms of improving their network and as a result of that, improving their sales?
Cultivate networking without expecting anything, right? Yep. Do things for others without expecting to get anything in return, and then your network will grow, period, right? Be patient. Your action item needs to be that you need to be patient. If you're just going to try and punch it across the finish line every time, you will have horrible, horrible results. Yep. So set your timelines that are further out. Yeah. And just so you have to be realistic in that. Just be cognizant that this market is different now and you need to have a little bit more realistic a timeline.
That's excellent.
And the third one would be, well, we probably talked about that over and over again. What are you thinking?
Let me ask you this way. What advice would you, having 15, 20, 25 years experience in the business, what advice would the older you give to the younger you about developing that network?
The younger me was that everybody was attainable, right? Every single person. Choose the right person would probably be my third one. I thought that I could get access to every single person, and every single person that's just a mark, right? And you just had to sell them all. That's not the case at all. Everybody has their own point for you to touch, but there's the right person to get to, and they're not all a mark. They're all people that you should get to know, but there's ones you definitely need to cultivate versus just getting to know.
Excellent. So distinguishing who it is that you need to get to know as opposed to who isn't as important to you.
Correct.
Excellent. All right. Well, as we're wrapping up here, Austin, I do like to ask, with all this talk about networking and building relationships, what is your favorite restaurant?
Oh, I have tons of them. Restaurants for me are based on the experience, the trip or the time I went. I would say the most fun I've ever had eating in a restaurant was with my wife in Budapest. We ate a place called Caviar and Bull. So if you're ever over there, you should definitely go. It's they do like 20 little pairings of food, and they finish you in the kitchen where the chefs come and they drink port with you and they do a final little dessert. It's really a wonderful experience if you ever go.
Okay. Really give me the name of the restaurant again.
Caviar and Bull. So they do obviously caviar, seafood, and steak pairings. It's really a wonderful experience in Budapest.
There it is. I got it. Caviarandbull.com. We're going to link to that in the show notes. So if you are over in Budapest, you should definitely go there. Right. Austin, you've been really generous with your time here today. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for the insights that you shared here about networking and sales.
Anytime. Thank you.
Awesome. Today's episode was brought to you by the Construction Conclave. If you as a construction leader would like to develop your skills and get involved in a community of like-minded construction professionals who are focused on building healthy teams, profitable projects, and long-term successful businesses, then the Construction Conclave is for you. It's a private, invitation-only group of construction leaders that are focused on developing their leadership skills. We do training every single month online that looks at how to become a better leader in a very practical, straightforward way. We also have other events that build community and camaraderie so that you can associate with others who are interested in developing their skills as leaders. If you'd like more information and to see if you qualify for participating in the conclave, feel free to reach out to me, eric@ericanderton.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and thanks again for listening.